All right, so in chapter 3 of PowerNomics, Dr. Claude Anderson is focused on building competitive communities, and that's building strong neighborhoods. Because we talk about the black community and we talk about it as a whole, but a lot of times when we talk about the actual zip codes and the physical environment that is the black community, it's often still referred to as the ghetto, the hood, the low income areas, the areas that are redlined, that we haven't done much to try to build up. And again, he keeps going into the idea that for all ethnic groups, America is a competition. One of the things that I've really been noticing lately is the idea that the American dream isn't just getting the two house with the 2 bedroom house, the picket fence or whatever they call it. It's actually coming to the people that are coming to America, the immigrants, the every culture that came over here on their own, with the exception of us that was forced over here, are coming over here with the idea that they're coming to basically build wealth. Like, you're coming to America to go after it and build wealth, and we're kind of the ones that are still kind of sitting back as a community. I know there's a lot of us that are doing it individually, but sitting back as a community and thinking this is just a place to live, when it's actually a place you're supposed to get out there and go after it and thrive. And in order to do that as a community, it takes a plan, and a long-term plan at that. So that plan starts with ownership. That ownership is in owning the key resources of that community. So whether that's land, the businesses, running into the schools, even if they're state-run schools, making sure that the entire community is involved in the success of those schools. A self-reinforcing economy. So with the self-reinforcing economy, it means that the businesses are working together, so that when you spend money in with a business, that business is spending money with other businesses within the community. And then political influence. That political influence plays a part in ensuring that the things that are happening on a local level are actually benefiting the community from an economic standpoint. That's another issue that we often have with our community, is that we're ready to march and protest and fight when it comes to social justice, but when it comes to economic issues and actually getting out there and advocating and fighting for things that are make us more powerful economically, those things aren't as exciting. They aren't as sexy, even though they're more important. They aren't as sexy, so we don't get a lot of people ready to go out there and fight for things that might help economically, because a lot of times many of us are still in the job mode, which isn't a problem, but we need a strong business class, and not just a strong employer class, which is basically the consumer class. This is why whenever we're talking about supporting black businesses, we often talk about it from the mindset of spending or buying from black businesses, when it needs to also become that we're building black businesses, and those black businesses are also owned by residents of the community, and even if they're not actually living in that community at the time as we're building it up, they are vested in the community. It's not just outside interests coming in, basically to extract. So other cultures come, other cultures, ethnicities, and everything come in. They develop the land, but they're only looking to make money, and they're not looking to increase the value of that community as a whole. Like, they will be happy if they were profitable and they got a return on their investment, but they don't have a vision for, we want this community to be a great place to live. They're just coming in with, we want this community to be profitable for my business that I can take back to wherever I'm going. So that passive occupancy is that the land is owned by outside developers. We often talk about gentrification as if it's a bad thing, but the reason gentrification is a bad thing for our community is because when they announce those opportunity zones, and that's how gentrification happens, where the state is basically giving tax benefits to real estate developers and businesses that are willing to invest in these low income communities, it's not us doing it. So you have this opportunity zone, and other people basically have a plan for how they're going to get rich off of our communities and get tax breaks for it, but they're not looking to actually invest what they make into the community to make it grow. So basically, other people have a plan for the opportunity that is happening in our communities. The housing is managed by large corporations, and again, many of these large corporations, and I've seen a guy on Instagram, Ted something, but he brags about the money that he makes off of Section 8. He's not really there to help and provide and take the Section 8 money and make the community better. He's basically saying, I can charge this. The government is going to give me the guaranteed money, and I'm going to go play on my yacht with no concern for the residents or the people in the community. He actually looks down on those people in those communities and just sees them as a government check. The grocery stores and chains, it's hard to have a big grocery store, but there's some of the smaller ones like Aldi, Trader Joe's. We had one in my neighborhood called Harvest Market. Some of those smaller chains, or even like they have the bodegas in New York. If you start, with some of the smaller ones, we can control some of the food that is going into our neighborhoods. And we often talk about how in low-income neighborhoods there's a food desert, but and I'm going to talk about it later with the vertical alignment. If we have, black farmers that are close in the area, you can have that farmers market where that is providing organic food to the small bodega style grocery stores that are in our neighborhoods. And then we can continue to, that's how you continue that circulation economy that I was speaking about earlier. So that grocery store is buying from those farmers. If we have small local restaurants that are owned by our culture, our community, our residents, they can also be buying food directly from those farmers. So you're not dealing with the commercial farming industry. You're actually getting fresh food from, again, farmers that have a vested interest in your community. With the schools being underfunded, a lot of school funding is through property tax. If you're a low-income community, the property taxes aren't going to be able to provide the funding because they've actually divided the funding up with how the neighborhood is going to go. So you can be in a city, but you could be in a poor zip code where your school is funded by that zip code, where somebody else in your exact same city could be in a high income zip code and just have better funded schools based off of the taxes. So we have to come up with how we are going to better provide for our kids in our community, and whether that be some, the church donating money to the schools, partnering with a lot of the entertainers and athletes that have come from these environments, and even on a small scale, if we can just get the athletes and the entertainers that have come from the schools in these low-income environments to just donate to the PTO, that would do a lot for what can be added to these schools as a support system for the students. And then the other one is that all the jobs are located elsewhere. So it comes back to building things within our communities that can actually employ the people within our community. So whether you have the trucking or whatever it is, building different outside of just retail, building industrial businesses that are near the community, or somewhere within the community that can actually recruit from that community. Again, if you can start with the land, with the opportunity zones. There's I forgot the guy on Instagram, talking about buying the block. So you start with that land. If there's land in the neighborhood, you start trying to figure out how you can buy that land and make plans for that land. By not just the residential areas, but when the strip malls come up for sale, a lot of times they'll be run down. So if it's an opportunity zone. You can actually go in and partner up, work with the churches and other black-owned businesses and co-ops, and figure out how we can buy these strip malls together and have a plan for what kind of businesses will be in our communities. We always complain that there's liquor stores and everything on every block, but they can do that if we're not the ones that are owning these strip malls. So we have to get to the point to where we are, as a community, owning these strip malls and deciding what kind of businesses that we want in our communities, so we can have a plan for what that looks like and for the opportunities. So this is the part where he was talking about the vertical economies. And here goes. This is an example. It was like a local farmers co-op where those people are coming together, creating a farmers market. The farmers market can help the grocery stores. They can provide food and produce to the grocery stores. That grocery store can provide food and produce to the restaurants. And then all of it, again, comes back to the local entrepreneurs. So that restaurant is working with black-owned trucking companies, accountants, marketing, and everything else that it takes to get the restaurant and the grocery store going. We start to build that talent and that capability within our own communities, and that's how you continue to circulate the dollar. It's not simply going to a black grocery store and a black-owned restaurant. It's those two businesses actually having black-owned vendors that can help them from within the community. Culture as currency. This is one that I really started to realize that the Chinese are amazing at. We've exported our currency, our culture, hip hop and NFL and all that, but it's not. It's more of an export from other people, and it's not benefiting our own community. We have to figure out a way to have that culture be a part of what attracts people to our actual neighborhoods and communities. So for instance, like with the museums, yes, we need to know history of slavery and whatnot, but we also have to start exporting that beautiful culture that we have. So it's not just slavery that's being exported, that we're just athletes and not just the gangster rap that we have, but we also start to have people that are wanting to be tourists of our eras to see the art and cultural museums that we have. There's way more to our culture than mainstream media likes to put out there and make money off of, from things that they control that are often degenerate. We have beautiful parts of our culture that we say people always want to be a part of. We say, they love our culture, they hate our skin. But if they love our culture, we start having cultural festivals where we invite other cultures into to enjoy it. The joke is always, we're inviting people to the cookout. This becomes those temporary cookouts where they can come in and embrace our culture and love it. And again, I went back to the Chinese. You can go to any country on this planet and find a Chinese restaurant. I was on YouTube watching a resort that was opened up in Saudi Arabia, because they're just now beginning to start being okay with tourism and stuff. Seeing that as a way to bring people into the country and show another side of Saudi Arabia than we see. Even if you don't agree with some of the things they do, they're doing this to showcase another side of their country. But even on this luxury resort that was on the beach in Saudi Arabia, there was a Chinese restaurant. And I've said over and over that the stereotype is that Black Americans eat fried chicken. KFC is the largest fried chicken, the largest franchise, American food franchise internationally. There are more KFCs internationally than there are McDonald's, yet KFC is not Black owned. If stereotypically we are the face of fried chicken, it's a problem that we are not the economic benefactors of fried chicken, regardless of how you feel about racism or whatever. And a big part of that is they tricked us out of our money by letting us feel bad for something that people were actually going to black women in the South for. The same thing would happen with watermelon. We were making money with watermelon. They made fun of us, and we got ashamed of watermelon, even though that was a crop that during the Reconstruction era we figured out how to make a lot of money off of. Political infrastructure. Voting is important. Having elected officials is important. But more important, we need to make sure that those people are getting in there with a plan, accountability, and funding from us. We always argue about Citizens United and the fact that corporations are able to basically buy politicians. They have lobbyists and everything else. We don't have that. Collectively we'll go out and march and protest, but at some point you have to have a organized plan that is funded. And whether you agree with lobbying or not, if you think money should be taken out of politics or not, it's still in there right now. So in order to take the money out of politics, we have to spend the money on the elected officials that we think will support those ideals. Every single elected official is they're basically going to take care of the money and then the voters. And what is messing us up is that we'll get out there and we'll all go strong to make sure that we get out the vote and get somebody in there that we believe in. But before they can do anything or can fulfill any of their campaign promises to us, they haven't fulfilled their campaign promises to their investors. So we have to come up with a way to ensure that collectively, even if it's on a small amount, we are donating to some kind of large lobbyist political action committee group that can fight on our behalf. And whether it has a large federal or international headquarters that is distributing some of those monies locally, or if there's smaller ones within each community, we give to the churches often, even if it's on a small scale. When Obama first got elected, he was the first one to do it on small amounts where people were just donating $5. If we had it on that kind of scale where we had a lobbyist group that was supported by the 42 million of us, and it was just $5, $10 here, here and there, think about how much money that is when we're all collectively, donating to the exact same organization, and it is aligned with our values of where we're trying to go. Making sure that we educate strategically. So one of the big reasons why I started this community was the fact that the education isn't going to happen the way we want it to in public schools. We don't have the income as a community to just run away and decide we're going to do private schools. So we have to be strategic in how we are educating our children and our community. Again, I'm going to say it over and over and over again, regardless of how you feel about religion. Churches are our largest multi-generational nonprofit, and they are a prime place where we could go to start educating our own in ways that we say we wish they taught this in schools. If they're not teaching it in schools, if they're not going to teach our history, if they're not going to teach financial literacy on a way that will actually benefit our community, we'll take it upon ourselves and do it in a place that people are already loyal to, right? We don't have to start new nonprofits. We don't have to start new centers and spend all our money funding new centers. These churches in our community already have infrastructure. They already have educated people within them that are dedicated and ready to volunteer to fulfill the missions that the pastor has already laid out. So as members of the church, we just have to form the ministries and the community, form the ministries that we want to have that will actually impact the community. Like I say, faith without works is dead. So it's great that we're building faith and strong communities on Sunday, but throughout the week, there needs to be things that allow us to economically do the work of the community as well. And it's thinking like a master planner, long term. So, again, I bring up China as a nation. They had what they called the 100 Years of Shame or whatever. But basically, it was a time where they had an opium crisis in China, and they made decisions that they were going to make changes to ensure that the the country began to prosper. And we're now literally seeing the effects of that 100 year plan, in that they decided they were going to start being the low cost manufacturers, and they got the entire world to decide that they were going to ship their manufacturing to China for cheap. But then they started building up their manufacturing. So it went from give us and we'll make your cheapest products, and they reinvested into the community until they became the only people in the world that had the actual expertise to manufacture the iPhone. Which is why we have the fight right now where they're trying to do onshoring and bring some of the manufacturing back, because we had just become a service economy, wholly dependent on everybody else. We have to do the same within our own community, and have that long-term 100-year plan of what we want our neighborhoods to look like for our great grandkids, and start making plans for that right now. So, it's either, in conclusion for that chapter, he was like, either compete or be controlled. And a lot of our history has been just being controlled. We're often waiting for things to happen and then we react to those things that are happening. We have to start being, I'm losing the words. We have to start being, I would. I'm gonna cut that part out. All right, we just have to start working towards making sure that things are happening before it actually happens. So, I hate that I can't think of this word. Proactive. We have to start being proactive in how we want things to work in our communities. I'm gonna end it there. Just think about how you want your community to look in the next 5, 10, 20, 25, 50, 75, and 100 years, and start working to be proactive towards it.